All right, baseball fans, are you ready? It's time for another deep dive, and this time, we're tackling the World Series. Think of it as your ultimate cheat sheet to be that person at the watch party who drops all the knowledge bombs.
We're going beyond those basic trivia facts and digging deep into the history, the stats, and the legendary players.
Oh yeah, we've got the historical records and all the interesting little quirks that make this event so captivating.
It's all about uncovering those intriguing bits of World Series history that you won't find just anywhere.
So, first things first. What exactly is the World Series?
Well, it's the pinnacle of the baseball season, right? It's where the champions of the American League and the National League clash head-to-head.
The ultimate showdown. 7 games to determine who takes home the title. Wow.
Exactly. A best-of-7 series, and of course, we don't know who'll be battling it out for the 2024 title yet.
Nope, we'll have to see how those playoffs shake out, but just imagine if it ends up being the Yankees versus the Dodgers.
No, that would be a matchup for the history books.
Talk about a rivalry.
Oh, they've got a history that goes way back. 11 World Series clashes, to be exact.
11? You're kidding me. I knew there was a rivalry, but I had no idea it was that extensive.
Yeah, and as of 2023, the Yankees are sitting pretty with 27 titles.
27? That's incredible.
The Dodgers have a respectable 7, but their last face-off was all the way back in 1981.
Oh, wow. So it's been a while. And get this, the Dodgers actually won that year.
They did. It's a rivalry that always delivers.
And speaking of delivering, you can't talk about these teams without dropping some iconic names. Babe Ruth for the Yankees, Jackie Robinson for the Dodgers.
Absolutely. And when you think about these players, it goes beyond just the stats.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson, for example, he didn't just break the color barrier in baseball. He changed the sport forever.
Absolutely. A true icon, and his impact on society, it's still felt to this day. It's amazing how some athletes transcend the game and become symbols of something much bigger.
Couldn't agree more.
And speaking of legends, let's dive into some of those individual stories that really capture the spirit of the World Series.
Oh, I love this part. When you think clutch performances, who comes to mind?
Gotta be Mr. October himself, Reggie Jackson, right? Especially with the Yankees.
Oh, yeah, he was known for his ability to rise to the occasion, especially when the pressure was at its peak. Remember his 3 home runs in Game 6 of the 1977 World Series?
The electricity in that stadium, I can only imagine.
And on the Dodgers side, you've got a guy like Steve Garvey, known for his consistency and playoff prowess.
These were the heart and soul of their teams, and it went beyond just hitting home runs or making those spectacular catches.
They embodied the spirit of the World Series.
Their stories continue to inspire new generations of players and fans.
Absolutely. They're the legends that keep the World Series spirit alive.
Okay, I know you've got some seriously mind-blowing World Series facts up your sleeve. Hit me with some of those quirky stats that'll make everyone's jaws drop.
All right, buckle up for this one. Bob Gibson, pitching for the Cardinals in 1968, he struck out a mind-boggling 17 batters in a single World Series game.
17 strikeouts in one game. That's almost superhuman.
It wasn't just a record, it changed the game, you know?
It must have set a whole new standard for pitching dominance. And speaking of records, wasn't there only one perfect game in World Series history?
You got it. Don Larson, pitching for the Yankees in 1956, he achieved that incredible feat. No hits, no walks, no errors.
A perfect game on that stage in the World Series. Talk about a once-in-a-lifetime achievement.
It makes you wonder if we'll ever see something like that again. What would it even take?
It's like the baseball gods have to align perfectly for that to happen.
Exactly. But that's the magic of the World Series, right? It's full of those moments that just defy expectations and become legendary. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, did you know the shortest World Series game ever was just 1 hour and 25 minutes?
Wait, seriously? An entire World Series game in less time than it takes to watch a movie?
It was the Yankees versus the Giants back in 1939.
That's incredible. From marathon games to super speed finishes, the World Series has it all. And of course, let's not forget about the Subway Series.
Ah, yes, the Subway Series, when New York City's own teams go head-to-head.
The energy in the city must be off the charts.
Bragging rights on the line, not just for the teams, but for entire boroughs.
Now, for our modern-day World Series fans, how is home field advantage determined these days?
Since 2017, it's all about the regular season record. The team with the better record gets to host more games in the World Series.
So it's all about rewarding a strong regular season. But is it truly fair? What about those teams that might have a slow start but really come alive in the playoffs?
It's a great point to ponder, isn't it? Does the regular season record really show who's playing their best baseball when it truly matters? It's definitely a point of discussion for the fans.
And for us. We'll be back with more about the World Series after a quick break.
It really is a fascinating debate. It makes you think, doesn't it? How do we value consistency over peak performance, not just in baseball, but in life?
Wow, that's an interesting perspective. I like that. And it really makes the World Series relatable, in a way. Okay, ready for more of those unbelievable World Series moments? Lay 'em on me.
All right, we talked about the shortest game, right? But did you know the longest game in World Series history went a grueling 18 innings?
18 innings. Seriously, that's almost 2 full games back to back.
It was Game 3 of the 2018 World Series between the Dodgers and the Red Sox, over 7 hours.
Talk about a test of endurance. I don't know if I could have handled that.
I bet those fans were on the edge of their seats the entire time.
Running on pure adrenaline, for sure. Okay, so we've got the shortest, the longest. What about some of those individual feats, the ones that really make the World Series so memorable?
Well, you can't talk about memorable World Series moments without mentioning the home runs, right? Bill Mazeroski's walk-off homer in Game 7 of the 1960 World Series. Kirk Gibson's pinch hit home run in '88.
Oh, Gibson's home run. I wasn't even alive for that, but I've seen it so many times.
Pure magic.
The energy, the drama, it was so improbable. Still gives me goosebumps.
That's what the World Series is all about. The unexpected, those emotional highs, those historic moments. And speaking of historic, gotta bring up Reggie Jackson's 3-homer game in '77.
That's what cemented his legacy as Mr. October.
He wasn't just hitting home runs, he was hitting them when it mattered most. Became a part of World Series history right then and there. And then you have those figures whose impact goes way beyond the game.
You're talking about Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, his courage, his determination in breaking the color barrier, it didn't just change baseball, it sparked a whole social movement.
His legacy lives on, inspiring athletes and fans. You know, it's a reminder that sports can really make a difference.
Absolutely. A single person can spark change. It shows you that the World Series, it's more than just a game. It reflects our history, our culture.
And while we're reflecting, what about those epic World Series celebrations? Champagne showers, the trophy presentations, the parades.
Oh man, those celebrations are just infectious. You know, the joy, the relief on the players' faces, it's incredible.
They've worked so hard all season, all that blood, sweat, and tears, and then they get to celebrate like that.
It's a moment of pure triumph. And it's not just for the players either.
It's for the coaches, the staff, the fans. Everyone's celebrating together.
It's a shared experience, and it wouldn't be the same without those fans.
Decked out in their team colors, filling the stadiums. They really bring the World Series to life.
Absolutely. Their passion, their energy, that's what creates that electric atmosphere. It's palpable, the history, the rivalries.
You know, it makes me wonder what it would have been like to be a fan in those early days of the World Series. Imagine watching those old black and white broadcasts.
Back then, you had to wait for the newspaper for the scores, you know, or huddle around the radio, hanging on to every word.
It's amazing how technology has changed everything.
From radio broadcasts to today's high-definition, multi-platform experiences.
We've got access to every angle, every replay, every stat.
It's brought the game closer to the fans than ever before.
And speaking of changes, the game itself has gone through so much evolution, hasn't it? The rules, the strategies.
Take the shift, for example.
Yeah.
You know, teams repositioning their infielders based on the hitter.
Oh yeah, the shift. It's everywhere these days.
It's sparked a lot of controversy, though, hasn't it?
It's definitely a hot topic. Some people say it makes the game too predictable, too defensive.
Others say it's just part of the game's evolution, a natural progression.
It's a great example of how the World Series is constantly evolving, pushing the boundaries.
And who knows what the future holds?
It's exciting to think about. But one thing that'll always be there, the heart of the game. That spirit of competition, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat.
Those raw emotions, that's what makes the World Series so compelling, so human.
It's a drama that unfolds right there on the field. Heroes, villains, unforgettable moments that stay with you. Speaking of unforgettable moments, what about those World Series upsets?
Ah, the underdogs. When a team comes out of nowhere, defies all the odds.
Like in 1955, the Brooklyn Dodgers, they finally beat the Yankees for their first ever World Series title.
Can you imagine what that must have felt like for Dodgers fans after years of coming up short?
That must have been incredible. It's a reminder that the World Series is full of twists and turns. Sometimes the best victories are the ones you least expect.
And sometimes those twists and turns are real-world events. Remember the 1989 World Series? Oakland A's And the San Francisco Giants?
Oh, yeah. What happened?
Loma Prieta earthquake happened, delayed the series for 10 days.
Wow, that's a powerful reminder that, at the end of the day, it's just a game.
It's incredible that it's persevered through so much, though.
Natural disasters, wars, the World Series keeps going.
Speaks to the resilience of the sport, the fans, everyone involved, and those legendary rivalries, they add another level to it all, don't they?
Oh, yeah. The Yankees and the Red Sox, the Cardinals and the Cubs.
When those teams face off in the World Series, it's electric.
It's more than a game at that point.
Generations of fandom clashing, all that history, passion, you can feel it.
And it's those individual battles within the rivalry that create the most memorable moments. Sandy Koufax against the Yankees in '63, Mariano Rivera closing out those games for the Yankees years later.
And then you have the legendary managers. Casey Stengel, he led the Yankees to 7 World Series titles.
Talk about a mastermind behind the scenes. They don't always get the same spotlight, but they're crucial to a team's success.
It takes a village to create a World Series champion. The players, coaches, the organization, and of course the fans. It's teamwork at its finest.
It's interesting to think about how teams get to the World Series, too. Some dominate all season, others peak at just the right moment.
You never know what's going to happen, what twists and turns are coming, which players will become heroes. It's what keeps us coming back.
Keeps us glued to our seats every year. Speaking of history, what about the trophies? Is there just one?
There's a Commissioner's Trophy. That's the one you see awarded to the champions.
Yeah.
But each player also gets a World Series ring.
Oh, wow. So it's like team and individual recognition. That's awesome. I bet those rings are amazing.
Unique to each World Series. Diamonds, the team logo, the final score.
And speaking of value, how much do the players actually make when they win the World Series?
There's a bonus pool that the winning team shares. Depends on ticket sales and stuff like that.
So the bigger the World Series, the bigger the bonus.
Plus, they get to visit the White House, meet the president.
Now that's a perk. It's really amazing how the World Series goes beyond sports. It has an impact on everything. Politics, music, even fashion.
It's about bringing people together, creating conversations, sharing those experiences.
We've covered so much already. But one thing we haven't touched on is the sportsmanship. How it shines through even when the competition is fierce.
Oh, absolutely. Those moments when players show respect for their opponents.
Like in '75 when Pete Rose helped Carlton Fisk up after a collision at home plate.
A true display of sportsmanship.
It shows that it's not just about winning.
It's about character, respecting the game and each other.
Sometimes it's easy to forget that, we get caught up in the stats, the drama, the scores.
But the World Series, at its core, it's about human connection.
Shared experiences, the things that bring us together.
Well said. And now, get ready for the final part of our deep dive. We're going to explore some of those controversial moments in World Series history.
The calls, the plays, the decisions that had everyone talking.
We're diving deep into the rule book, dissecting those controversies.
Get ready for some heated debate. Okay, we're back, and you know what that means, right? It's time to dive into the juicy stuff. The controversial side of World Series history. Those moments that sparked debates that raged on long after the final out.
The calls, the plays, the decisions that had everyone talking, arguing, maybe even throwing things at their TV screens.
Oh yeah, we're going to revisit those moments that left fans scratching their heads, questioning, and sometimes even crying foul.
And we might even stir up a little debate ourselves along the way.
So buckle up, because we're about to uncover the moments that made the World Series both thrilling and oh so controversial. All right, let's kick things off with one that's almost legendary in baseball. The pine tar incident of 1983.
Ah, pine tar. Sticky situation, wasn't it?
For those who might not know, picture this. George Brett, Kansas City Royals, hits what looks like a game-winning home run against the New York Yankees.
The crowd's going wild, everyone's celebrating, but then...
The umpires decide to take a closer look at Brett's bat, and what do they find? Too much pine tar.
Too much pine tar. It seems like such a small detail, right?
You had a clutch home run, and they take it away because of a little sticky stuff on your bat.
Well, the rule was there, and the umpires felt it was a clear violation.
The Royals were furious, obviously. They protested, argued that the pine tar didn't give Brett an unfair advantage.
It was a huge debate about whether it was breaking the spirit of the rule versus the actual letter of the rule.
And what happened? The game was eventually resumed with Brett's home run reinstated, and the Royals ended up winning.
Can you imagine the chaos? The back and forth. Talk about a roller coaster of emotions for both teams and the fans.
It's just amazing how a tiny detail like pine tar on a bat can change the course of World Series history.
And it shows that even with all the rules and regulations, there's still that element of human interpretation and judgment that makes baseball so unique.
Speaking of questionable calls, we've got to talk about Don Denkinger's infamous call in the 1985 World Series.
Oh, yeah. Denkinger, Game 6, bottom of the ninth inning, a super tight game between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Kansas City Royals. The tension was palpable.
And then Denkinger, the first base umpire, calls a runner safe. A call that, upon replay, clearly showed he was out.
The Royals won that game and the series, but Cardinals fans, I'm sure they're still talking about that call to this day.
I bet they are. It's a stark reminder that umpires are human, and those split-second decisions can have huge consequences. And, it always brings up the debate about instant replay, how much technology should be in the game.
It's a tough question, right? Because on one hand, you want to get the calls right. But on the other hand, you don't want to take away that human element, that element of unpredictability.
I think it's about finding a balance, respecting the tradition of the game while acknowledging the benefits of technology. But controversy isn't always about bad calls or missed plays. Sometimes it's about those strategic decisions that have everyone buzzing. Like, remember the shift we talked about?
Oh, yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah.
Teams shifting their defensive linemen based on a hitter's tendencies. It's become so common, but it's caused a lot of division within the game.
Some argue that it disrupts the flow of the game, makes it too predictable, too defensive.
Others see it as just another layer of strategy, a natural evolution of the game, a way to challenge those hitters.
It's a great example of how a change in positioning can spark so much debate and discussion.
Makes you think about the essence of the game, what it means to play it right, what it means to win or lose fairly.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the World Series, it really hits you that history is woven into every aspect of it. The legendary players, those iconic moments.
The controversies, the rule changes, the strategic shifts, they all add to the tapestry of this incredible event.
Each World Series adds a new chapter to baseball's ongoing story, a story that's filled with triumph, heartbreak, and everything in between.
And it's a story that's still being written. As you watch the 2024 World Series unfold, remember all that weight of history.
Remember the players who paved the way, the moments that became legends, the controversies that kept us talking, and the possibility for new stories to be made.
Pay attention to those close calls, those moments of brilliance, those strategic decisions that might leave you scratching your head, because that's what we'll be talking about for years to come.
Whether it's a walk-off home run, a controversial call, or some crazy new strategy, the World Series always delivers. It's what keeps us coming back for more, year after year.
And remember, beyond the stats and scores, the World Series is a reflection of the human spirit, the drive to compete, the joy of victory, the resilience in the face of defeat.
Soak it all in, enjoy the ride, and maybe even spark a few debates of your own along the way.
Who knows? Maybe you'll be the one telling those World Series stories years from now.
And that's a wrap on our World Series deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through the history, the legends, and the heart-stopping moments that make the World Series so captivating.
Now go out there, impress your friends with your newfound knowledge, and enjoy the games.